All right, so welcome to episode 88. As you can see, this is a live stream show. We live stream twice a month. That is brought to us by our patrons over at patreon.com/wealthforpearls. Thank you so much to those who support the show. That means that I get to be here a couple of times a month, chatting with you, sharing my projects, and also running things in the community and collaborating with you guys on things that we love and things that we want to talk about. We are sort of entering, we're still in the dead of winter here. We're sort of entering early spring here in the Lower Mainland. It's kind of a weird time of year because from now until about June, it just rains. So we do get usually some sunny breaks and stuff, but outside right now, it looks like it's like 6 p.m. at night and it's only 12:30 Pacific Standard Time. So the middle of the day. So it's dark and dreary and cold, and it's nice to be here and under the lights and chatting with you guys today. So thank you so much for being here, for those who are able to be here while we live stream and chat away and visit with one another and interact with what I've got to show you this week. So that's awesome. On today's show, I have a teeny tiny bit of housekeeping. I've got a question from the Ask Anything thread on Ravelry, which actually came to me via a private message on Patreon. So we will be chatting about that, and I'm going to be asking those of you in the chat channel if you guys can input some of your own ideas and some things that you want to share in the conversation. And then I've got a whole bunch of finished spun yarn, which is really exciting. So I hope that you enjoyed the show. First up, as I drop things, oh, and the dogs are out. They're out and about and they're moving around. It's raining outside, so I couldn't put them outside, and I really can't lock them up because they actually make a lot of noise and they bang on the doors and stuff. So if you hear dogs in the background and you hear like licking sounds or nails on the floor and stuff, that's the dogs. So I hope it's not too annoying and too distracting. There shouldn't be too much, but fingers crossed they behave. Charlie was barking the other day. He never barks. I can count on like one hand how many times in his life he's barked. And he was barking his head off yesterday, which was so weird. So anyways, hopefully they're quiet. So, housekeeping. The first thing that I wanted to mention was I completely forgot to start the January episode thread in the Ravelry group. I totally forgot. I think after I published the show and stuff, I just completely missed the ball on actually like starting that thread in Ravelry. If I ever do that, if you guys can just like send me a message or something, like if you know that it should be there and it's not there yet, or you can start it yourselves, I don't mind, as long as there's not multiple episode threads. But we do the episode threads monthly rather than by episode, because usually we run giveaways for more than one episode. They usually go for the month. Right now, Kelly G Knits is offering 5 patterns for giveaway. You get to go in and pick from her shop what you like, and I will send you a coupon code and you can download that pattern for free. So in the January episode thread, if you could pop in there and let us know what you want to spin for this year. Next show, I'll draw 5 names and we will give away 5 patterns. That's open to everybody. Just pop into the Ravelry group, Woolen Spinning, and let us know what you want to spin for this year and what you want to make, which would be awesome to know. I know one person has already popped in and said they want to do socks. So yeah, we will be doing socks later in the year, and hopefully you'll be working away on yours and have some stuff to share with us as we get closer to the end of the year. Book club, I announced that last episode. I feel like I haven't live streamed forever. This is so weird. I'm watching the chat channel. I'm just like, oh, this is so odd having all these cameras. We started book club last show. We are looking at A Stash of One's Own by Clara Parks. It's a series of essays that a whole bunch of people in the knitting industry have submitted to her that she published to explore what stash means to each of us and what we think of when we think about stash, our own stash, stash in general. So I will be over the next couple of months collecting essays that you've written yourselves about stash and your reflections on stash. This is for everyone. It's not just for patrons of the show. Anybody who wants to submit their essay, throw it into the Ravelry group, chatter away about the essays. What ones do you like the best? What ones were hard to read? What ones made you cry? I had a good tear up over Franklin Habit's essay. It hit quite close to home in terms of cleaning out his mom's stash. I won't spoiler it, but I think about that sometimes when I'm thinking about my parents' house and my mom's craft room. So I think Becca, she posted her essay yesterday, I think, Becca. So you can have a look at that and reflect on that, and hopefully, and people are posting in the Slack channel as well as in the Ravelry group. The Ravelry group has the book club thread, and it's stickied at the top. So have a look in there and pop in there. Hopefully, you can get the book from your local library if you don't want to read it, if you don't want to buy it, and or maybe you can borrow it from a knitting friend. Maybe your guild has a copy. But yeah, we'd love to see you in that thread. The last thing I want to talk about has absolutely nothing to do with what's going on in our community or with Patreon or anything like that. It's actually something totally random. And I just wanted to share because it's the coolest thing ever. So I'm going to switch my cameras and I will show you this very cool thing that a friend of mine at work told me about. And one of the women that I work with is a crocheter, and she sells her crochet, like her toques and mostly like baby toques, kids toques, that kind of stuff. And a lot of people at work buy her stuff from her. And she was telling me about these labels, and I was like, what are you talking about? And I have labels and stuff for my stuff that I sew inside my sweaters. And I talked about them years ago on the show. And she was telling me about these labels. Anyways, they come from Sweet Pine Hills, which is in Victoria, here in British Columbia. And it's, I can't remember their names. Jerry and Megan. And like I said, oh, sorry, they're in Alberta. And they, my friend Tanya at work was telling me about these really cool labels. And I was like, oh, okay, okay, sure, whatever. Like, didn't really think anything of it. And then she showed me a toque that she had finished, and it had one of these labels sewn onto it. So I thought they were the coolest thing ever, and I wanted to share them with you. So mine actually finally came. I worked with Megan on the design and what I wanted on it, and you can do custom, like you go into the Etsy shop and you can pick what you want. And but what makes these so cool is she's done stuff on the back for me. So the front of mine say by Rachel, and then the back says wellforpearls.com, hand wash, and then lay flat to dry, because all of my stuff gets labeled the same way. So when I'm giving gifts, I often have to write that out by hand, and then I think, how are they going to remember, like, especially with like toques and whatnot, a few months, a few years down the road. Because my brother and sister-in-law, for example, like they have tons of my toques. And my sister-in-law knows how to look after wool, but I always think, like, what if it got passed on or, passed along to someone else, they didn't know, and it got felted or whatever. So anyways, these fold. They came in a package like this, and then they fold. So they print them, and it's on like this like suede type material. It's not leather, I don't think, but it's some sort of a vinyl suede. And I got gray. They have a few different colors to choose from. They're quite flexible, and they kind of, they're very thin. They're just really, really cool. And I just wanted to say how much I like them. And if anybody out there sort of looking for a way to label their knitwear, this is a great thing. So I took this shawl, which you guys will recognize right away. This is one of my hand spun blanket shawls. And I've always kind of wondered how I was going to, I'm just going to switch the cameras back. How I was going to, like, I've always wanted to label my stuff, but nothing ever really worked. So now I've got my label there. Isn't that cool? I think that's just the coolest thing. I've lost the chat. One sec. I just love them. So the Etsy shop is Sweet Pine Hills. And basically, I will link to them in the show notes. I've actually already done up the show notes because for Patreon subscribers, the show will go up later today. But it's basically sweetpinehills.com, Hills, hills, sweetpinehills.com. And like I said, just look for them on Etsy. They're really neat. And then I just put in a custom order. I messaged Megan ahead of time. I told her what I wanted and what I was looking for. And I ordered these before Christmas because they didn't do any printing over the Christmas break. So they made them after Christmas for me, and then they sent them out. So it took quite a few, like it took a few weeks. The turnaround wasn't super, super fast, but I really, really like the results. So I am happy, and I'm definitely going to order some more because I only ordered a pack of 20, or maybe I ordered 30. I honestly don't know. Anyways, they weren't super, super expensive, and I just think they're really cool. I just think they're super cool. That's really what it comes down to. I think they're really cool. So Sweet Pine Hills. And that's what mine look like. Mine were just plain black. You can do like designs and pictures and stuff on them, but I didn't really want to do that. So, and then Sweet Pine Hills. So, yeah. Anyways, that's housekeeping. Okay. I'm just looking in the chat channel. Sorry, I'm not ignoring you guys. Hi to everybody. Yeah, they are super cool. Everybody's saying they're super cool. I know, they're super cool, right? I just think they're awesome. All right, let's do answer anything because Megan's question is quite long and I am going to read part of it. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but this was from Megan, and she had a question that comes up quite a bit, but it's funny. This question comes up every so often. I've gone through this as well. And so I thought so I really wanted to bring that up on the show, bring this conversation up on the show because I've been here and I think it's a really interesting question, and it's one that I think is really great to be able to talk about as a community. I see Megan is in the live chat, in the live stream, which is awesome. So I hope that we can do your question justice. And I'd really like to acknowledge this one later on the Wool and Spinning audio on the radio podcast, because I have some more thoughts about this, but I need to kind of flush them out and think about it a bit more. So, let me see. Okay. Hi, Rachel. When you have time, no rush, I would be interested in knowing if you think there are more advanced wheels. She put that in quotes, by the way. I didn't just do that. I have been spinning on my Lendrum for about 3 years. I love it. I love mine too. It mostly makes the yarn I want, although sometimes I outpace it with long draw drafting, and I am a fast treadler as I am a cyclist. That does make a huge difference, being a fast treadler. I also outpace it on plying. I have proven to myself that I'm a dedicated spinner, and I like large projects and spinning for sweaters. That's great. I live 4 to 5 hours away from any stores with wheels. So it is really hard for me to try anything. That is actually really tough because when you live far enough away from any stores where you can go and sit down at least a few different wheels, you're really restricted because you either need to find people who have different wheels from yourself, or you sort of need to buy on a wing and a prayer. And I always think that's a bit, you're taking a risk when you do that. I've been kicked in the butt by that. And, it's tough, right? Because if you don't have other spinners around, you can't try their wheels. It's really hard. Let me see. I am wondering if there are more advanced wheels. Like, would I like one that spins faster? Would I like double drive? Are these things going to make me happier spinning, or should I be happy with my Lendrum and keep on spinning on it? Which is more of a philosophical question that you can't answer for me, but we can talk about it. My default yarn and what I knit with most is 2-ply fingering for Fair Isle or 3-ply fingering for Ganseys or cables. So she actually told me in a subsequent email, because we exchanged emails between ourselves, that a lot of what she likes to knit with would be like the equivalent of like a 2-ply Jameson Spindrift kind of yarn. So we're talking like, color working in Fair Isle. So I am considering a Shacked flat iron, a Shacked matchless, a Magicraft Suzy or a Rose, or an Ashford Electronic Spinner 3. Sorry for the camera moving. Charlie's moving around. Charlie, stop it. Hey, stop. Or an Ashford Electric Spinner 3, particularly for plying. Although I might have someone making me an electric spinner that I can attach my Lendrum plying head to instead. That would be really cool. So here are my questions. Number 1, if you could pick only one wheel to have for the rest of your life, what would it be? Number 2, what is your go-to wheel for 2-ply fingering? Number 3, is double drive really better for advanced spinning, or are other wheels more advanced than the Lendrum? Thanks, Megan. Okay, great questions. I just want to look at the Slack channel for a sec, you guys. I'm just going to take a bit of a pause because a couple of people are having trouble getting into the live stream. So I will repost the link in Slack for you and see if that will work. And then we will talk about this question. So you guys can start writing in the live chat what you think. And then you can... we can talk about it. Okay, so here are my questions. If you could only pick one wheel for the rest of your life, what would it be? Okay, so if I could only pick one wheel for the rest of my life and I couldn't spin on anything else for the rest of my life, and I had to give away all of my wheels and I was only allowed to keep one, after spinning on the number of wheels that I've spun on and owning the number of wheels that I have owned, at this point in my spinning career, I would choose my Magicraft Suzy Pro. The reason is because it's fast. I have a lot of range with it. I can go super slow and I can go to a bulky flyer, or I can go to a baby bobbin with a really fat core and a really fast ratio and spin long draw, cotton, anything that you would want to spin fast. So any of the like microfiber, vegan cashmere, anything that needs bamboo, anything that needs a lot of twist, that needs a lot of twist to be held together. And then you've got everything in between for plying. You've got really big bobbins. The bobbins are light. And I can use storage bobbins to store my singles, so I don't generally think about buying a lot of extra bobbins anymore, because I tend to store a lot of my singles on my weaving bobbins, and I buy the big Leclerc bobbins that are a little bit bigger, that are true storage bobbins, and I store on that. I used to use Bobbins Up, which you can put on an electric drill. I have them, I use them, but when I have to buy new storage bobbins, I tend to go with the Leclerc bobbins because they're $4.99. I can get them at my local yarn shop, and that works really well. Charlie keeps moving my camera. He's such a goof. He won't stop licking. He licks all the time, and he's got allergies and stuff, so we have to really keep an eye on him. I know that people are having trouble getting on. I've posted the link. So if you're on a mobile device, or if you're not on a desktop or whatever, sometimes it's probably technology, unfortunately, at your end. So it's I can't really do anything to help you right now. I'm really sorry. So the okay, so where was I? I'm losing my train of thought because I'm looking at what people are chatting about. So that's what I would pick if I could only pick one wheel for the rest of my life. Now, a year ago, I would have picked my Shacked Matchless, because it has a huge range. It's got big bobbins. You can go to a jumbo flyer, and it's a great wheel. It's got a nice big drive wheel, so it goes really quickly. It's heavy, so is the Suzy Pro. And one of the reasons why why I would choose the Magicraft over the Matchless now, and I did have to choose between my two wheels. I had to decide if I was going to keep them both or if I was going to let one go, and I did eventually let my Matchless go, even though I said I never would. And the reason is just space. I just don't want to have that many tools in our house, and I don't like to accumulate a lot of stuff. I like to have tools that I'm going to use, and I use them all the time, and I sort of tend to let the rest of it go. In terms of like one of the advantages to the Shack Matchless is it comes with a carry strap, and you can put it on a cart and you can take it with you. But with the Magicraft Susie, for example, you can fold it literally in half, and it has a carry handle, and you can pick it up and carry it with you. But they're equally both sort of, you know, heavy wheels. So one of the things that I think is really important to think about, and I would have never thought about this a couple of years ago, is portability. So like I keep my Shack Sidekick because I can throw it on my back in a carry case. I can carry it onto an airplane if I ever needed to, which I haven't yet, but I have had to take it on the ferry. And let me tell you, throwing it on my back was really great to be able to do. And so I think, you know, as you sort of start to figure out what kind of wheels that you like or what kind of wheels that you are drawn to, you can start to figure out sort of, by process of elimination, you can sort of figure out what you want. If you want a really fast wheel, but that you can fold down and throw on your back, the Sidekick is going to be sort of the wheel. That's sort of it for wheels on the market that you can fold down, put into a case, throw it on your back. The Ashford Joy is another one. It's not as fast as the Shack Sidekick. And then you need to talk about, you know, when you talk about an advanced wheel or a fast wheel, what you're really talking about. You know, I really like spinning in double drive for woolen, for sure. It's something I really enjoy. It can be annoying to get that uptake and that feel balanced, sort of to get it to, you know, to get the wheel to uptake on double drive, but also, and not to have it pulling so hard, or not to have it pulling at all. So it's definitely something that takes some getting used to. I have found in my experience that people who spin in double drive tend to only spin in double drive. They don't tend to go back and forth. Scotch tension tends to be what most people use. And there's really, it's a great tensioning system. So is Irish tension. So is double drive. Like it really, just because your wheel maybe can do 2 or 3 different things doesn't necessarily mean you're going to use it. You're probably going to set the wheel up, and I'm talking to the general you here. You know, most of us probably are going to sort of set our wheels up in our sort of default spinning position, and then we're going to kind of go from there. Unless you get into really technical spinning where you're worrying about twists per inch and what ratio you're on, and you're changing your drafting techniques all the time, and you're not really sure what you're doing. I will say about the Lendrum, I love my Lendrum. It's great for teaching. It's a very straightforward wheel. Most people can get running on it and get going on it relatively quickly. It's simple. It's kind of like, you know, the Ford Focus of spinning wheels. Like it just does everything, and it does it well. And it, you know, if you sort of have the 4-door Ford Focus, everybody fits, you know. It doesn't go super fast. It does start to wobble and to tip, especially with the Jumbo Flyer on. However, the Jumbo Flyer for me personally has been the best one that I've found to date for myself for spinning textured yarns. So for me, it's been the best by far for doing all my textured yarns, because it goes nice and slow, it's balanced, it's easy to treadle, I can adjust the orifice height. So if I'm really working on something intricate and I don't want to be like this, I can sit up, I can move the orifice height up, and I can work right here up, sitting up straight. Megan's wondering what feels different between the Magicraft and the Lendrum. So because of the way that the Lendrum sits, because it kind of sits like this. So if this is the drive wheel here, it sort of sits like this, and these are the treadles here, right? And so it's treadling here, and the wheel sort of sits on this sort of angle. As soon as you get going, especially with your fast flyer, I find, as soon as I'm on like 17:1, which is pretty much where I run my Lendrum bar none, basically, like it just sits on 17:1 all the time. It's actually sitting behind me down here, and it's on 17:1 down here, like it's just always there. It's just not as stable as some of these other wheels. Like, it's just the base of it and how much literally sits on the floor and how heavy the wheel is. I think the Lendrum is only like 11 pounds, I think. Can somebody verify that? The Magicraft Susie is like 38 pounds or 34 pounds or something. That's a big difference. And my Shacked Matchless, I had one, it was Felicia Lowe's old wheel actually, and it was from before 2012. So it was one of the wheels before the upgrades, but it's a 42-pound wheel. Like, it's heavy, it sits solid, it doesn't move. And that is something to think about. I think the Aura is right up there in weight. If somebody has an Aura and can chime in, that would be awesome. The Spinolution wheels are super, super heavy. Oh, 14 pounds, Katrina, for the Lendrum. Thank you. I think it's the Shack Sidekick that's 11 pounds, I think. But these aren't super heavy wheels, right? Like the Sidekick, I can move it across the room if I'm treadling fast enough. Because just the push, the motion of you pushing it is going to move it away from you. The Spinolution wheels are super, super heavy. I think the Mach 3 is like 40 something pounds, 45 pounds or something. It's not a portable wheel, but you can get it going, like you can get that speed going and get the thing going. The nice thing about some of these wheels, like a Saxony wheel where you've got a really big drive wheel, like a Shacked Reeves, if you've got ratios of 36-1, the Magicraft Susie, the Fast Flyer, the high speed head goes up to 27-1. You don't need to treadle at a Mach 5 million an hour. You can slow down. You don't need to work as hard to treadle because you've got these higher ratios. And then you have to figure out why you're treadling so hard, because woolen yarns shouldn't be super, super high twist. They're supposed to be light and airy and not quite so full of twist. So I'm not sure that answers a lot of your questions, but I think all of this stuff you need to start thinking about in terms of like, your spinning technique, what you like to spin, the yarns you like to create, and portability. The heavier the wheel is, the more it's going to sit stationary, the faster you're going to be able to treadle it. It's just physics. Do you have to treadle faster? It depends on your ratios. I decided with my Susie, for example, that I would buy the lace kit so that I would have 27-1 so that I wouldn't have to work super hard. I'm also a very slow treadler. Like, if you sit me and Katrina next to each other, and she's going to start laughing. So if you sit me and Katrina next to each other and you ask us to make the same yarn and you put us on the same ratio, my yarn will be low twist and her yarn will be high twist. And the only difference is our treadling speeds. Katrina's treadle is at Mach 5 million and I treadle at like the speed of a snail. So to make the same yarn, her and I would actually she would have to go up in her ratio and get a really big pulley, so that she wouldn't be adding as much twist to her yarn. And I would have to go down to a really small pulley to add lots of twist so that her and I would make the same yarn. If we weren't counting our treadles and we weren't paying any attention to how much twist, we were just spinning, on our default settings, if you will. So even on the same wheel, we both have Shack Sidekicks, we both have Lendrums. We have to adjust our wheels to account for how we treadle. And her and I both can produce the same yarn, but we have to set up our wheels very differently to be able to do that. Katrina's also she's quite a bit taller than me, so she has to adjust her orifice height up higher on her Lendrum than I do. So it's all that stuff that you need to think about. And if you can, try as many wheels as you can. I'm not a huge fan of the electric spinners. You guys know that. I have something coming down the pipeline that I'll share with you next month, but I'm not a big fan of them. I've been thinking very seriously about getting an electric spinner again because I can't sit and spin all the time, and I need to be able to get up and move around and work in the kitchen and whatnot. So like when I'm waiting for the kettle to boil, that kind of stuff. I want to be able to spin, but I can't because I don't have my Hanson anymore and my wheel is sitting over there and I don't really want to leave the kitchen. But they do a specific job, and no matter what, they're going to pull and they're going to twist and they're going to spin no matter what you do, because you're human and you can't slow your treadling or slow or speed up your hands and do it intrinsically, the machine does it all for you. So if your hands aren't moving consistently the whole time, you're going to start getting inconsistencies in the twist in your yarn. So it's something to think about. I talked about that extensively back when I still had my Hansen, and it's just something to think about. It's not good, it's not bad, it's just fact. The other thing I wanted to say too is this notion of advanced wheels really bugs me, and it gets under my skin, and I'm going to rant for like 2 seconds. And the only reason is because you can have like the Maserati of spinning wheels, you could have the Cadillac of spinning wheels, or you could have, you know, the like beaten down, like, I don't know, what's a really super cheap car that's like half on the road. And it really, at the end of the day, it's your skill and what works for you. You know, you can have really, like, you can, okay, Ashford traditionals, for example. You can have an Ashford traditional that's been totally overhauled, and, you know, you've had to like maybe rebuild parts of it, and it's from the 1970s, and you maybe paid $50 for it, and you spin gorgeous yarn on it. Or you can have, I don't know, a Golding custom wheel, you know, the gelding of spinning wheels, and you can't spin anything, and you're a terrible spinner and you make terrible yarn. Nobody really makes terrible yarn, but you know what I mean. It's really your skill as a spinner. And then as well, there's incredibly advanced spinners who only spin on spindles and they never go onto a wheel. And I think we sometimes get really caught up in the tools and in buying more and getting more equipment and whatnot. And sometimes we actually need to work on our practice. I'm not talking to you right now, Megan. I'm kind of talking in the general. You know, I think when I first really got into spinning, back in like 2013, 2014, I really fell into that. Like, I wanted the really fancy wheels, and I wanted to feel like I was part of the community with a nicer wheel. Cause my Kromsky wasn't in very good shape, and there's a lot, you know, that I had to fix on it and, you know, get it up and running well. And really, in hindsight, I was making great yarn on that wheel, and I probably could have spun on it for a really long time and not upgraded to another wheel. It wasn't the right height for me, and it was there were other problems with it for me. But I think we get really caught up in all of these names, and it's and you see, like, on Instagram, people are posting all these photos and all this stuff of all these wheels they have, and that's great, but you don't need them. One of the best spinners that I know, and she's still by far one of the most advanced and technical spinners that I know, she has one wheel, you know, and she's had one wheel for like 30 years. So, yeah, just something to think about. I'm going to look in the chat channel and just see if I've missed anything. I don't think I have. Oh, Sharon asked, so this has nothing to do with spinning wheels. We're going to move on. Sharon was asking what, I guess I'm spinning, oh, Tessa. I'm spinning on the equivalent of a Datsun, a 70s wheel, Sleeping Beauty, a Sleeping Beauty Thumbelina with very few options, but a lot of miles on it, and she's lovely. See, there you go. Yes, very good point that some tools are always going to be a battle simply because of ergonomics. It's personal, and your body is a big part of it. Becca's absolutely right. Megan says she loves her spindles. That's what she uses on vacation or at the park with the kids. That's actually, I mean, I've talked about this on a show. That's me. Like, so often you'll know that it's coming into the spring or the summer for me because I'm spinning on my spindles again. And, you know, I think like so often I come back to my spindles because I love the simplicity of them. It's why I come back to my Lendrum. I love the simplicity of my Lendrum. And for teaching, like if you ever start to teach, the Lendrum is an awesome wheel to teach on. The Sidekick confuses new spinners because the wheel is going this way instead of this way. And they have a lot of trouble figuring out which way is Z and which way is S. So, you know, clockwise or counterclockwise, and they end up back spinning, and it's so hard, so frustrating. I've only seen 2 people really get it immediately, but they had a very significant background in fiber. And so they sort of were already, they kind of got the theory of it. And so they sat down and just started spinning and they were fine. But for most people, they start spinning and back spinning it, and it's confusing. So the Lendrum, keep it in the back of your mind. Like if you ever think about teaching or you want to sit down with somebody, and teach them. The Lendrum's a great wheel to teach on. Sharon asked, knit-alongs and spin-alongs, can you just explain to us what a knit-along or a spin-along is? Becca kind of answered it. So a knit-along or a spin-along, often a cal or a sal, S-A-L or K-A-L, is when a group of people are working on a similar pattern or yarn or fiber together at the same time. So that's, yeah, that's a great explanation. And we've got a few of those going on in the group right now because instead of doing 0 to hero this year, we've kind of divided everything up. So people who want to do socks this year can chat in the sock group. People who want to do a sweater spin can chat in the sweater spin. People who want to, what was the other one I had up there? I had it there. Oh, haps, the year of the hap. I'm working on my hap spin. It's almost done. I'm so done with it. Anyways, we need to move on. Finished objects. I'm so excited about this one. So, sorry for the crinkling in the microphone. I have a ton of yarn finished. So, now I have to remember what they all are. Okay, so this one, and I'm going to switch the cameras around, so just bear with me for a sec. So I'm just going to premise what I'm going to talk about next with, we have the color and breed studies going on in the group. We've been working on this since October. We asked everybody to submit photos of that they wanted to see on fiber, and then Katrina chose 3 and we decided to look at the fiber fin this time around. So she did the 3 colorways. There was Fractured Dawn, which is the one that you see on the inside, and then Lakeside, which is on the in the middle, and then Arctic Berries, which is on the very outside. And oh, I've got an echo. Oh shoot, sorry guys. I wonder where the echo's coming from. Okay, let me switch. Maybe it's the camera. We usually don't have echoes in while we're recording. Is it gone? Can you guys let me know? Very strange. I don't have anything turned on. Can you guys let me know if the echo's gone? All good. Weird. Huh. Okay. That's weird. I wonder if it's when I switched the camera around. That's very strange. Weird. Yes, gone now. Audio picking up on both. No, it's not the cameras. Okay, so on the very outside there, we had, next time I show a photo, I'll just not talk. On the outside there was Arctic Berries. So last time I shared with you this one here. And it was, I'll just focus the camera here. And I am so in love with this yarn. Oh my gosh. So this was my combo drafted yarn of the 3 colorways. So I stripped them all down and I spun them all together. And I just, oh my goodness, I just love this one. It's so heathery and perfect. And then this one was my next one. My cameras are turned off. I don't use my camera mics. So that's why it was so weird, because I keep all of the sound turned off. So I'm wondering if there was something when I switched the cameras, because that's when it happened. So I'm wondering if there was something odd about that. So this one is my combo ply. So what I did with this one, and it's funny because to the untrained eye, they look very similar. But this one's actually more consistent because I wasn't drafting from 3 nests of fiber at once. And it's more barber pulled. So I'll undo it and then you guys can really see. So I got about 500 yards of each. I think this one is actually close to 600 yards. Yeah, 540 yards was this one. And you can see like it's just barber pulled. The entire thing is barber pull. And I'm amazed at how green it looks. It is so green. It's just like when you look at it from a distance, all you see is green. And the not having to draft from the multiple nests, it just made a more consistent yarn. So the other one is sort of So this one is 300 yards, and it's 2-ply. They're all 2-ply, and this one's about 14 wraps per inch, and it's 3.5 twists per inch. So that's my combo draft. Whereas this one is 16 to 18 wraps per inch, and it's a 45 degree twist angle, and I think it's about 3.5 twists per inch, but I haven't actually calculated that yet because I hadn't washed it yet. So I didn't have time to look at that. But I just love these yarns. I think they are so cool. I love how they turned out. And so what I'm thinking about doing, and I'll show you the other 3 now. How many ounces or grams were those? So they're each, it's funny actually, they turned out really evenly. I'm amazed because I didn't weigh anything when I divided it all up. And then after I divided it all up, I'm like, maybe I should have weighed that. So this one, my combo ply, is 135 grams, and it's a big skein. This one's 113 grams. And then these are all 80 grams. So these are the last 3 that I finished off. And all of this stuff is going to be written up and shared in the How I Spin content and the Thoughtful Spinner content and all of that stuff over the next couple of months. So you guys will get sort of more information about these spins over the next few months in that content on Patreon. This one here is Fractured Dawn, and I did this as a center pull ball. So it's just spun end to end and then a center pull ball. What I was really surprised about with this one is how much the colors actually did match up. It shows quite a bit of barber pulling, like just looking at it in the skein form, but once I undo it, you guys will see a lot of the color actually matched up, and this is my favorite one. I just love this one. This is Arctic Berries. This was inspired by Rebecca's photo from the Arctic tundra up where she lives in Nunavut, and this was a traditional 2-ply. And it's interesting because pretty much throughout the entire skein the color matched up, and then I have these areas where the color's barber pulled in transition areas. So when I undo that one, you guys will see that. It's really neat, and it knit up really nicely. And then this one is Lakeside. It's spun as a fractal. So it's a 2-ply fractal. I took the color repeat because I just had the one color repeat, and I stripped it, and then I took that one color repeat, spun it end to end, and then the other part of that stripped fiber, I stripped it 4 times and I spun that end to end and then plied them. This one, if I was to knit it from beginning to end, I think it would transition just perfectly through all the colors. It's just like the perfect fractal. I don't think I've ever spun a fractal that was this accurate before, if that makes sense. Like, it's just so obviously a fractal because you can see the color move through. Like, you can totally see how it, here, I'll switch this around. You can see how the colors, like, they just move right through one another. So there's the red to the blue to the green to the lime green, and you can see the barber pulling in some of these areas where they just move through. You know, the blue, there's the red, the blue, the green, the lime, like they just move through one another. It's just absolutely perfect. And I've never had a fractal, maybe because it's a small sample too, but it was such a perfect colorway to do a fractal with, and it's so obvious. As soon as Katrina saw this, because I showed these to her at her house, she actually said to me, "Oh, that looks like a fractal," and I was like, "Yep, totally." It just worked out perfectly. So, all right. Sharon, I saw your question and I will answer it in just a sec. I'm just going to undo these ones and finish my train of thought. Thank you for the kind words, you guys, about these yarns. And then this is the traditional 2-ply, and you can see how the colors just matched up perfectly. I love the moodiness of these colors. This was my least favorite braid of the 3, being honest. It's not, I love these colors, but I felt like it was the, it wasn't the one that made my heart pitter patter and like that I wanted to sit down and start spinning right away. That was actually Lakeside for me. I wanted to sit down and spin Lakeside immediately. But then as the study went on, these 2 ended up being the 2 that were the most surprising for me. This one spun up exactly the way I thought that it would. But these two were the ones that actually were the most exciting. So this one, I just love how the colors matched up in here. There's a little bit of barber pulling between the color transitions. It's interesting. It's a bit moody. It's dark. This would be an amazing shawl with a very simple lace pattern. I just love it. I love this moody purple, and actually from a distance, like you can see with the shirt that I'm wearing, like it works really well, that purple and that sort of reddy pink. I've ended up really, really liking this one, and I kind of wish that I had more of it, because I would definitely do something like the Shaylin shawl out of it or something. So pretty. And then the last one was the most surprising, and the one that I ended up being the most excited about. This was Fractured Dawn, and you'll remember that this one had tons and tons and tons of white in it. And you can see like how much the colors matched up. Like all this in here, it all matched up. You know, time and time and time again, it matched up. There's all this blue in here and green that all matched up, which I thought was really interesting, because I spun it so randomly. And then there's all these places of barber pulling in here. So that was really interesting. And I just loved the effect of this. This is a yarn that's not going to stripe in a traditional sense. It's not going to go from one color to another color to another color. Like this stripes. This yarn in here, not the cream obviously, but the other, it stripes. This is going to be a random variegated stripe. So it's going to be like, you know, hits of colors, so like purple, blue, white, that sort of sand color, green. Like it's going to be variegated and very random, and I just love this one. I wish I had more of this one as well. I almost asked Katrina, well, I did ask Katrina for seconds, and then I almost bought seconds, and then I decided at the last minute not to follow through, just because I've got so much yarn in my stash, and I've got other projects that I want to spin for this year. And I really, by the time I got to the end of plying these three, I was ready to be done. I was happy to let this project go. I am going to try to flip the camera again. So if it starts to feed back again, let me know, but I'm not going to say anything. So this is the combo spun yarn and the combo plied yarn next to each other. And hopefully you'll be able to see that. So that's all of the yarns, all 5 of them, done. I hope that didn't echo and didn't feed back. If it did, then there's maybe something wrong with doing the image. So maybe you guys can let me know. So in terms of what I'm going to do with these before I put them away, so Sharon had asked, there was a brief echo. Oh, it did. Okay, thanks you guys, because then I know, and I can hopefully fix it for next time. What I'm going to do with these yarns, so I'm really torn. I might change my mind, but what I'm thinking about doing is using my combo drafted yarn, so this one, with my 3 that are true, so these 3. I'll just grab them out again. So these 3, I'm thinking about using these 4, sorry, not 3, 4, as warp. And I'm thinking that I'll sort of use this one for the majority of the warp, and then sprinkle these 3 in throughout the warp, so that I'll have sort of like a plaid warp kind of. So I'll have like, you know, a whole bunch of the combo draft, a little bit of the lakeside, a little bit of the Arctic berries, a little bit more of the combo draft, some Fractured Dawn, and sort of offset it so that those are kind of all on the one side, and then the rest of it is all the combo draft, because I have about 500 yards in total of these 4 to play with for a warp. And I'll sort of do the warp about 30 inches wide on my 32-inch rigid heddle, and make it as long as possible to use up all the yarn. And I was even thinking about putting on I can't remember what it's called. Felicia was telling me about it, and I can't remember what it's called, where you have a false warp to start with, and you tie on your warp, and then you can pull it through and you don't lose as much warp with the ends. That's a weaving thing. So I'm not going to explain that too much because we can talk about that another day, but I'm thinking about doing that with these ones. And then this one, the combo ply, since I have 540 yards, doing this one is all weft. So it would be up the entire length of the weaving. All this combo plied yarn would only be the weft. That's what I'm thinking. So you'd get some plaid from these, and by Rebecca, she's heading out, and I'm thinking that that's what I'll do. So fingers crossed. I just have to do some more sampling, and then I'll go from there. But that's my thought, and I don't know how much fabric I would end up with, so I need to do some calculations and kind of figure that out. The last thing that I wanted to talk about, and I'm going to move along because I'm looking at the time, and these live streams, we have to keep them a little bit more under control because they get longer and longer and longer every time I record, is my Pacific Spirit. It's done. So this was, I'm going to show you what the original braid looked like, because this is very different from what the original fiber looked like. So the original fiber looked like this. So hopefully there wasn't too much feedback there because I didn't say anything. So I have a wash this yarn. I spun this as a lace weight singles. I talked about it quite a bit on the show last time, so in episode 87. So I won't go into too much detail about it today, just because I actually showed how I spun it. And it's got a nice twist on it. It twists back on itself twice, so it hasn't been washed yet. So I didn't want to make it too high twist. But it's just got a lovely look to it. It's very, very, very green. It's quite bright, and it's got this real like kind of lime green stuff in it, and it really barber poled on itself in quite a few spots. And then I ended up with this like random area here, so you can really see the movement of color here. Let me just lay it out. So it goes from the lime with the green in there to the blue out here, and then the bluey green aqua with the yellow, and then you've got this brown plied with the dark blue, with the tealy blue. It's really lovely. This is part of a bigger project that I had started, and I'm really happy with how this turned out. So the singles are super high twist. I spun this at 20.4 to 1 on my Susie Pro, and I'm thinking, and then I have the other fiber upstairs. I carded the same braid together on my drum carder to create just an analogous color. It's just completely homogeneous. It mixed everything together. I worked on it. I think it must be part of videos from back in like 2015, 2016. And I've been spinning that on my Lendrum, and then I just kind of got burned out on it and I put it aside. And then I put this in my bin for last year, and of course I didn't get it done. And then I finally got it finished yesterday. I applied it up yesterday, and I set the goal of having it finished by this show. For it just kind of lit a fire under my butt and got it done. And I'm hoping that if I can get the other stuff done, that between that and this, that I'll have enough yardage, because this is 488 yards. I'm hoping that with the other one I'll have enough yardage to weave something up with it. I'm gonna put it on my 15 dent heddle and weave it up, the two yarns, and I'm hoping that I'll end up with sort of a good sized piece of fabric that I could do some pillow covers, because we've got some pillows in our living room that I really need a pop of color, and these colors are perfect for our furniture and our color scheme our furniture is dark brown, and we have quite a bit of yellow in our house. So how can you tell? It's one of my favorite colors. So I thought this would be perfect for, and it's BFL silk. So the fabric will full really nicely and will fill in really nicely, and will just, I think it'll look really pretty. And they won't get a lot of wear and tear. So it's not like I'm worried about them getting beaten up. So that is that. I don't think I have anything else for today. I'm just looking in the chat channel. Yes, it is a lot greener. The yarn is very green compared to what it looks like in the original photo. It's funny because I think the brown and the blue almost kind of gets lost alongside this crazy green. And I almost chain plied this, almost. I was this close. And then I thought, you know what? I really want to see what this looks like as a 2-ply. And so I actually did a center pull ball because I had spun it onto my baby bobbin. So these, when I mentioned these earlier in the show already, I've said this a couple of times about baby bobbins. Baby bobbins are these. They've got a big fat core. And I fit all 4 ounces of this spin onto this bobbin. And so it sat there for about a week after I recorded last time, because I got the singles done almost I think like the next day. Anyways, it sat there for the last almost 2 weeks, and I was like, I'm just going to do a center pull ball. That's what I was thinking about the entire time I was spinning. I'm just going to follow through and not think about it too much. And I'm really glad I did, because this made really interesting yarn. And I'm glad to see what it ended up looking like, because as a chain ply I know what it would have looked like, but this was a little bit surprising. That yellowy green, that lime green, still completely takes over. It's still very, very strong, and I plied it very gently. I didn't put a ton of twist into it, so I may send it back through my wheel again if I do decide to weave with it and use it for warp, because I just want it to be a little bit tighter. Is plying from a center pull ball also known as Andean plying? Kind of. Andean plying is where you do it in a bracelet ply, so it's around your wrist. It tends to be used for sampling, and it's not quite as big of an amount. From a center pull ball, I actually wind it off onto my ball winder so that I have a center pull ball. If you want to know what that looks like, if you go onto the YouTube channel, there's a couple of videos there on plying from a center pull ball that you can look at. So I think that's it for today. Thank you so much for your kind words about my spinning this week. For those who are patron supporters of the show, thank you so much for supporting the show on an ongoing basis and for allowing us to do this. The show is going to be live streamed twice a month from now on, which is awesome. You guys unlocked that this month. I couldn't believe it. I wrote a big post on Patreon and on the blog to thank you guys for the support and for getting to this point. That's really awesome and very exciting. So thank you so much. In the next couple of weeks, look for a new episode of Wool and Spinning Radio for patrons. That will be coming up in your inboxes. And until next time, happy spinning. Bye, everyone.